All right,
Whoa,
so
who are those cool guys up on the top left post there? Whoa, so cool.
oh cool.
Damn, you guys should really check out the Instagram. I mean, what?
Yeah, I don't know who these guys are, but they're probably kind of cool. So whoa, look at those shoes.
Whoa, totally like random posts that have nothing to do with anything. Whoa, it's not like they're trying to show off our stickers that we didn't release.
We won't talk about that.
Whoa, what's
Well,
that? What's that sticker on that buttstock? So cool. Oh, never released. Can't
no,
even get unless you know the guy.
this is what only matters. Taco sushi.
Oh
That's
yeah.
the only thing that
Oh
matters.
dude. Fuck, I can't wait till summer again. We're gonna get those.
Well, we were gonna talk about something way better, but somebody today in our group chat talked about getting bolt cutters, and then I suggested getting them props, or like instead of buying a real bolt cutter, I was like, just get a prop, you know.
Okay, Dungeon Master.
And that led to some debate, some interesting discussion. So we thought we talked about it today. LARPing and cosplaying, in the kind of like the gun community. So I think everybody has a pretty unique take on it. So I thought we'd talk about it today. But for those of you that don't know, LARPing, well, as defined by Google, is a type of interactive role-playing game in which the participant portray characters through physical action, often in costume with props. So that's like the Oxford Dictionary definition. But you probably see, people LARPing at the range all the time. Like, oh, LARPers. Uh, let's see if we get any good pictures. So, in essence, it's in my mind, it's just everybody that just runs around in full kit in the range when they really don't need to. But there are times where I enjoy LARPing. I get it, but at the same time, it's like, where does LARPing start and cosplay begin? Or
Well,
stop?
like,
Or you get what I'm saying.
for
Doesn't
me,
matter words.
I think like for cosplay, in my mind, is like you're trying to copy a really specific style of something. Like for example, we were kind of talking about like 80s Navy SEAL style LARPing, where you have like, I think they're like had like I think like blue or green like jumpsuits and like the MP5s and like the 3-point slings and like incandescent like surefire lights, and those are like really cool. But then like I think that's more like cosplay because the the efficiency of what they were using has like shifted away from that, right? And it's like it's not to say that it's not still on some level effective, but then like you're kind of like choosing the form over the function of the items, right? So it's like to say that like if I gave you an MP5 with iron sights and like incandescent bulbs, and like you were going up against like somebody who's like using current modern warfighter gear, you'd be at a pretty severe disadvantage. So you're choosing the form over the function, right? So I kind of feel like that's more like on the cosplay side. If we talk about like cosplay and like LARP being like on sort of like the opposite ends of the spectrum a little bit, with like everything in between. Because I think you have like some people who are trying to do like both, right? So like I could see people being like, oh, I want to cosplay as something, but I also want the stuff to be functional. So that's where you get like people who will kind of mix and match. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said, what spurred the conversation was the fake bolt cutters, right? Whereas like, for $80 you can buy a nice bolt cutter prop, and then you'd be able to. It's super light. You can throw in your kit and run around and be like, oh, I don't know, like cool operator, man. And, but it doesn't serve any purpose. But for $80, for most people, I feel like you're right. They're just having fun, right? But
Like,
I don't like
some of the bolt cutters I've looked at that are like from pretty like nice reputable companies costs about $80.
Yeah.
So then it's just like in this particular instance, it's like interesting because, for like what would be the purpose of buying the prop one over over a real set of bolt cutters when oh dude, that picture of them larping as like the division is so fucking cool. God, I hate that I'm saying that, but it looks so cool.
You're wrong. You're arguing for the wrong side.
Like with the loot bag. Oh man, it's so fucking cool. Okay, sorry, just
Well, that's
a little
airsoft,
tangent there.
but that's still cool.
Yeah. But like, okay, so like that guy obviously cosplay, right?
Right.
But then like, like I could see like people like mimicking the style of like Division and like trying to make use of like the stuff that they have or utilizing things that like would give them some level of protection. Like to me, I think it's funny that in Division you just put on one of those painter's masks and all of a sudden you're like impervious to like every kind of basically sea burn threat. But then it's like if you actually know anything about sea burn, it's like holy fuck, like like that's like a band-aid, but anyway, so then like basically it's like the bolt cutter example, you could just buy real bolt cutters for the same amount of money, keep them in your kit, and then if anybody like comes up to you and is like, hey, oh cool, bolt cutters, are those real? And then you're like, hell yeah, they are. And then you go do some hood rat shit and like, break some locks. And I don't condone trespassing or doing illegal things with your homies when no one's looking. But if you were to participate in said activities, then you'd have like functional gear that would work, right? Whereas like if you just had the fake ones in your kit, then it's like from afar or like for pictures for Instagram or whatever bullshit, you would look cool, but then like if push comes to shove, it'd be like, oh yeah, these are fakes. I can't cut the lock off your gun case at the range that you forgot your keys.
I think it actually brought up. So, like, yeah, we talked about this earlier, and it keeps coming back with like the boys, the homies, or like the crowd you run with. But another aspect I didn't think about is like, yeah, who are you showing it for? I guess because it's like a real one. Yes, they will have it to use. It costs around the same, but I can't swing it around and it's heavy. The fake one, I could run around and chase people with it, and if I hit somebody, not a big deal, right? But I also don't condone hitting people with even if they're fake. But point is, like, you can play around with the fake one, and they look if they look. And from far, or even like not touching, right? Because they're obviously made out of rubber and light. But like, if upon like inspection, it passes the muster, like, and I run around at a range with it, and even if people ask, "Hey, is that real?" and I just lie to them, like, who is it hurting? I guess it's like, and like, so. But I think that's definitely more cosplay, but. At the same time, do you need to run around with bolt cutters all the time?
I think the problem always comes down to always buy both. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I hate that, like, literally money just solves all problems.
It really
but it's
does.
but it's also one of those things where it's like, okay, like, for example, because like we make videos and stuff, it would be fun to do something with props and stuff in some of our videos. So basically it's like, okay, it's like actually a pretty good it's
you can get a rusty, good, like, you can get a bloody. Yo.
Okay, Gordon. So you could. It actually presents like a pretty decent reason to buy props for like those purposes. So I kind of understand that, right? Or if you're fucking around with your buddies and you just have it laying around, cool. But then at the same time, it's like up to a certain point, I could see that like having like I would want to have both, one for functionality and then the other for like messing around. But it's like I kind of like, it's just an interesting dichotomy that like you can buy the real deal for the same price as the prop, whereas like I feel like a lot of times it's not exactly the case, so it's a little bit easier of a choice to make in terms of like which one you're going to spend the money on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you
those medieval guys though.
Yeah. Hey, that's LARPing. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's what I think when I hear
Yeah.
LARPing, right? And honestly, I don't even remember where I heard LARPing for like gun stuff because like I've always thought like LARPing was just like like fantasy or
Yeah.
medieval fantasy role playing where like you run around and throw like fireballs at people. But like I don't
I
where did
think
it start?
I mean, I don't remember exactly when it started, but I definitely know that it's like what you were saying before, where like if you go to shoot at like an indoor range where it's all just like straight lanes and like you're only shooting at one target and you wear like your plate carrier and helmet and nods and like battle belt and like, full multicam and all that stuff, then it's kind of like, okay, dude, like, that's like pretty
You,
unnecessary.
you mean this guy?
Um, Dude, I wish that so I looked into that meme and apparently no one knows what he was saying to her.
No,
Like
no.
it's like one of those mysteries that we'll just never know like what the guy is like saying to her, but it's like it's so funny.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's basically, yeah, that's what LARPing is. It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know, because it's like, I won't pretend like hey, I don't LARP because it's like I'll be like, oh man, like you said, like 1980s, 90s Navy SEALs are so cool, but it's like, and most of my gear is dated. Like I don't care about the latest and greatest as long as it works. But like, I just feel like I don't know. It's just like LARPing just feels like it just sounds icky. I just don't want to be a
Yeah.
LARPer.
So
Like
that I mean that's the stigma behind the word itself is that it like is like nerdy, right? Like LARPing has always kind of had that slightly negative connotation in that it's like, oh, it's just like a bunch of like nerds like going and like doing like for example, LARPing kind of applies a little bit to people who like play Dungeons and Dragons, but like really hardcore, where they like dress up for it too. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like there's always sort of been like this negative connotation associated with LARPing, and basically that connotation has moved over to people who are doing things with gun gear that like it kind of is like doesn't make sense. Whereas like I could see on the spectrum, there are people out there who will go out and like try scenarios that might be realistic that would like test your gear to a certain level to let you know like hey okay this is actually going to work for you or it's not going to work for you. So like uh I could see like for example let's say you're like a prepper, right? Kind of. And then basically you're like, okay, I want to see if I can go out and like survive in the woods for a while or something like that with like just what I can carry on my back. And then you like arrange your pack and stuff, and then you're also going to bring like a rifle and like a rig and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so the scenario of that happening that you need to do that probably not anytime soon, hopefully, according to the way that the government's going. I don't know, but basically it's like if you're just trying out your stuff and seeing if your kit's going to work, then I can definitely see that being like it's LARPing, but you're also trying to like make sure like your stuff actually works in like as much of a simulation of, the situation as you can. Whereas like people who are like, oh, I'm gonna, the full kit shooting in a single lane at a flat range is like, well, that's not really going to show you whether your kit's going to work or not. So you're just doing it to show off, right? So it's like maybe that's also kind of like the splitting difference. Whereas like cosplay, it's like it's just to show off, right? Whether you're like dressing up to show off to people online or people like at conventions or to I don't know accomplish something for yourself, you're just doing it to show off. Whereas like for like LARPing, depending on your mindset on how you're using it, I could see like it being like a way to describe what you're doing to find out if like whatever you're trying to accomplish will actually function properly.
so that brings. I just had a thought. So is LARPing? I guess is LARPing about the gear or the mindset then? Because it's like I think what gets blurry is that LARPing, like at least when I see it, it feels like it's more people talk about the gear, like you want to LARP, because I get the prepper, scenario or idea, where it's like, but then a prepper isn't really LARPing, right? Because it's like what makes sense to a civilian, urban, whatever rural prepper isn't gonna be like, hey, I wear multicam black, with whatever cry
I
JPC
think
and
I think that the LARPing aspect is like a combination of your like mindset and the gear, but the thing that people always fall into the trap of is people are always gear focused first because it doesn't require like hard work. Or
Hmm.
like it doesn't require as much hard work to like focus yourself. So like for example, if it's just about the mindset and it's not about the gear, that requires you to improve yourself internally. Whereas like if you can just put gear on to make yourself feel better, then all it requires is spending money and like minimal research, realistically speaking. So like again, gear is something that you can also like blame outside of yourself. Like if it was a failure due to mindset because you like didn't like elevate yourself to where you like learned skills and like can like apply critical thinking and like basically like handle things with like mental prowess, then like if you just like spend all your time focused on gear, then if it fails, then you can just be like, well, it was the gear, not myself, right?
So
So
would
I think a
you
lot.
so would you say sorry, the memes are funny. So
Yeah.
would you say LARPing without the mindset is cosplay then? Or just bad cosplay?
um I guess and once again I feel like it's a spectrum,
Because I
right?
think that
Because
makes sense because I get the mindset of it because at the
yeah.
same time I feel like you could take all gear out of it and it would still be LARPing, right? Like
Mhm.
because the fact is you're trying to do something and
Yeah.
it's the action of the LARP rather than the
Yeah.
looking the part, right? Because cosplay
Yeah.
is like looking the part. When you start using your cosplay, that's a little different. But most
Yeah.
of the time, cosplay, you're just hey, it's like I want to look like Hunk for Resident Evil or whatever.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, if you're looking at like okay, it's like live action, meaning that you're like doing something, and then
yeah,
like role playing is basically like like role playing requires like mindset because it's like you're kind of like in my mind it's more like you're acting out a role. So then like whatever that role would be, in my opinion, is like unless it's some kind of like set script that you're trying to follow, then basically it's like up to a certain point it's mostly like mental component. Whereas like the gear portion isn't explicitly mentioned to that, it just assists in like the what was it like the like your cosplay trees. Oh my
yes,
god.
that's a good one. I need to start
Yeah.
using that
Yeah.
cosplay trees.
So yeah, then it's like, you can take the gear component out of it. Like, for example, if you're like, okay, I want to learn how to like survive with like literally nothing, right? Then it's just like, okay, you just go out in the woods with like just the clothes on your back and you just have to like live out there or something like that. Then it's like I could see that being like a form of LARP, and like you're you're just trying to apply like what you can with like what you know how to do versus, and so that's like basically zero gear, so then it's not gear oriented at all. Whereas like for cosplay it's like you can't really mentally cosplay. I
Sure, you
mean,
can. I've seen. Okay, don't you disrespect cosplayers, okay? Like, you know how hard they have to work to wear so little and get ogled by people and get taken pictures all day? Like,
you're
come
right,
on.
that requires a huge mental fortitude.
Yeah, yeah, you don't understand, okay? Like, you have to
You're
thank
right,
them for
you're
their
right.
sacrifice. You don't
Okay.
understand what they go through.
Okay, I take it back.
Yeah. But jokes aside, I think now that we're talking about this, I think people, us looking at LARP through like such a like a small soda straw is what's like kind of like giving because like if you apply the whole mentality of it, right, the mindset and the training, the actual action part, then it stops being about gear. But we're so focused on the gear aspect that like that's all we talk about, which I think gives it a bad rep with cosplay, right? Because if you use it, because it doesn't have to be right, like would I at least the way I see it, it's kind of a I guess it's kind of a murky when you get to more modern and practical stuff. I think it gets really murky because like 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 you're trying to LARP like let's say like modern day like I don't know like um SF, right? Whatever, pick one. Like Marsoc, modern day Marsoc, they use X, Y, and Z, so you have their gear, but it's not always the most like practical. So I think that's where it's like gets a little murky because, like you say, when you're cosplaying or LARPing old stuff like 1980 Seal, it's like you're taking that disadvantage, right? So like if you're LARPing modern day stuff, like if you're arguing for practicality, why wouldn't you fix the deficiencies? Because
actually, military specification or mil spec is actually the highest level of quality. So, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, because we talk about this too, right? Like the deviation, it's like just as good, like because like I see guys, it's like there's the military issued ones, but then there's like civilian ones that like military also uses, but it's not the issued version, right? Yeah. So it's like or vice versa, or they literally throw away their issued gear and go buy civilian equipment or better versions.
Yeah, like Condor because they can get it faster. Well, yeah, like that's kind of like the whole I think like like exactly what you're saying is like sometimes like because of like military bureaucracy and like red tape and like that kind of stuff, it makes it like sometimes the current issued gear is shittier than or actually I don't know, maybe like more often than not it's like the issued gear is not as good as whatever the most currently available gear is because you're restricted by like your unit is only gonna spend this much or time and effort into acquiring this for you versus like a civilian who has enough money can just go out and buy whatever the most current latest greatest thing is and just try it out, and if it's great then awesome, right? I don't know, I mean that's basically like basically the whole Mark 18 debacle.
Care to elaborate for?
Well, it's just that like Mark 18s were built for a really specific purpose, but outside of that, they kind of suck. So basically, it's like everybody who has a Mark 18, and this is like the other part of it that's like really fucked up is that like it's like I'm talking about like let's say like somebody clones a Mark 18 and like gets it pretty close versus like people who just refer to any 10.3 or 10.5 inch gun as their Mark 18. It's like no, but like the Mark 18 is pretty dated now, and like most of the stuff that comes on it is like, well, a lot of the, not everything, but some of the stuff on there is kind of like dated, especially the one we're looking at right now with like the Motto version. I'm talking more like the Mod 1 version. But basically, like, it was given to people with a really specific purpose in mind, and if you're not using it for that purpose, or you're trying to use it for something else, then you're kind of fucked. So, like, I think, like, Grantham had a video on this where they were, like, comparing, like, Mark 18s to, like, SPRs, or, like, Mark 12s and stuff or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but like they were showing like scenarios where it's like, oh man, that guy's like our enemy's like shooting at us from like 300 yards away, and the guy with the Mark 18 is like, well fuck me, and then they go and do CQB, and then like the dude with like the Mark 12 with like a suppressor on it is like bumping into stuff because his gun's just like so long. So then it's like, oh, like basically it's like the people who have Mark 18s and like that's like their only gun, it's like, well, it's pretty like it's pretty shitty in that configuration if you're trying to use it as like a gun to shoot at like 400 yards. You know what I mean? Like something like that. I guess it's just like there are better things you can build with what's available on the market, even just by like going up to like an 11.5 inch gun. Like add one more inch and it basically like doubles your capability. So I don't know. It's just like, but see, Mark 18 is so prevalent and popular as like a terminology and as like a design concept for guns that like everybody and their mom has a 10.5-inch AR. And like everybody calls it a Mark 18, whether it's like, you know, a clone build or whether it's like just a random like pieced together AR-15 that happens to have a 10.5-inch barrel. It's like everyone's like, yeah, Mark 18. Rah! And it's not quite as much like this anymore, but like basically I kind of feel like that's still a little bit of the stigma of like, oh yeah, Mark 18 is the best thing in the world, when like realistically speaking, you should probably be using at least a 14.5-inch or longer.
But then you wouldn't be clone correct. How could you
Yeah.
LARP if you aren't clone correct?
Block 2, bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting insight. Yeah, I don't know. I
And
just
it's
don't.
like it's not that like, you know, like a, you know, somebody who's trained in like using it exclusively for CQB, it's not like you can't be effective with a Mark 18, but I just think that like the problem becomes like out of context. People are just like, well, I think we're straying off the topic a little bit here, but basically it's just like you know, sometimes LARPing and like trying to like copy something like this is not necessarily like the most effective. And I think that that becomes like what you were saying earlier, where it's like the trade-off of like trying to copy like something that's like military for cosplay purposes, and also trying to utilize it as a functional thing for LARPing, right? I think that the Mark 18 kind of fits into that category of like, it's a little bit of a trap, being that, you know, oh, well, the military uses it, so it must be really good. But then like, you know, maybe as a civilian, let's say you live in like the Midwest where there's like tons of open space and big fields, and like, you know, just like your engagement distance is probably going to be like a few hundred yards, if not further away. Yeah, your Mark 18 is cool, but it might not be like that good for like functionality. So if you care about that at all, then yeah, probably not the best choice of gun. But if you like, I don't know, lived in like a city or like tight space areas and stuff, yeah, maybe a Mark 18 is a good choice for you. I don't know, but that's just going back to like the whole LARPing thing. Is like, well, if your mindset is like that your Mark 18 is the best gun in the world for every situation, then you're probably not doing it right.
Yeah, so I think it boils down to the mindset, right? Because it's like it's simple. Cosplay, we know you know what you're doing. We know what we're doing. So whereas like LARPing, when you're trying to justify, you know, like like practicality and then cosplay, that's yeah, really the answer is by both, you know, by
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
The money
Yep.
solves everything. You have the
Yeah.
fun and you have the real, you know, real work.
Yeah, that's like what
It's
we were
like,
talking
because
about.
it's
It's like,
like,
dude, you
hey, I'll
basically
admit
have to
it. I'll
buy
admit it.
both bolt cutters.
I'll admit it. Like I run around with fake plates in my plate carrier because fuck that. I'm not wearing like an extra 10 pounds if I don't have to.
But see, if you have the money and or connections, you can get real plates that are almost as light as like foam airsoft plates. But like those are like, you know what I mean? Like they're like $3,000 per plate. You know what I mean? So it's like you can figure this out with money, but it's like I kind of feel like most people either are just unwilling to spend that kind of money or don't have the money to spend on it to have the compromise.
Yo, this Hawaiian shirt. Hawaiian shirt is top. Is
Dude,
top tier.
the boog boy movement for a little bit.
It's so stupid.
Man.
That also gave LARPing such a bad name too.
Yeah. Well, like, and then like it was like cool for like 30 seconds when like a dude would like hop a uncharted flight and then just fucking jump out of the plane midway on the flight path in like flip-flops and a Hawaiian shirt and like a parachute, and you knew he was just some like fucking CIA operator or some bullshit like that. But then like after they're like, oh hey, let's put Hawaiian shirts under plate carriers and go to like protests and stuff. It's like, bruh, please.
Yeah, they're LARPing. They're LARPing hella hard.
You're hurting me.
You should respect them, okay? They're trying real hard.
Respects.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because it keeps coming up, right? I don't think it'll ever be solved because you're always gonna have the crowd that's like, oh, that's stupid, you're just playing pretend, and then versus like the people that are like, no, and it's like this is my my 200 pounds of gear, my bowl cutter, all my whatever, like my laser designator, they're all gonna come in handy one day.
Oh, you know what's a really good example of LARPing versus cosplay?
Yeah.
You know the meme where it's like a really fat dude who's like, I only use chest rigs because I don't want a plate carrier to slow me down.
No, I haven't seen that. But...
Oh, okay, yeah, but basically it's exactly that description where like it's a guy who is wearing like a chest rig and he's just like, oh yeah, I don't wear plates because I don't want to be slowed down by the weight. So I wear chest rigs for speed. But then the dude's like hella fat and like basically obviously out of shape. So it's like, okay, dude, like that's a mindset thing. You know what I mean? Where it's like you are not physically fit, which requires some mental fortitude and discipline. So basically it's like the argument for running just a chest rig by itself for the purposes of maintaining lightweight mobility is kind of negated by the fact that you are not mobile. So, but you understand what I'm saying, right? It's like that's more of the that's basically LARP, or I mean that's basically like the
that's
more cosplay.
That's not even cosplay. That's copium. Like, because it's like, because here's the thing: if you're truly into cosplay, you would take the effort to get in shape, look the part, X, Y, and Z. Like they're dedicated, right? Like to look.
That's not necessarily true, though. There's some bad cosplay out there.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm getting at. It's like if you were truly like dedicated to it.
We need those 511 kilts, man.
Oh man, I wanted. You know what? I'll get one. I've always wanted one. Are they still around? Can you still buy them?
But why?
What do you mean why? Because it's breezy.
Explain. Okay.
It's nice and breezy. Okay.
Get that yellow one. Get that yellow one.
That's not. I don't think that's. I think that is a legit.
It's cyberpunk, dude. It's cyberpunk,
it's
man.
Come on. Cyberpunk. Oh. Wait. There's a limited edition multicam one. Yo, it's on.
No, please, no.
Is that what the multicam woodland?
This has got to be just like, like the people at 511 who like came up with this, either have to be like, is it Celtic or which where does this come from again? Like the kilts, the Scottish or something?
Yeah.
Either there's some Scottish dudes in 511 who are like, all right, we're making this for our like heritage, or it's just a huge joke that basically turned into like a real product.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, you mean like the LaRusie note?
Yeah.
It's just a huge joke. Oh man, dude, it's on sale.
All right, swipe your card.
Save that bookmark.
Add to cart.
Look. I don't care what you identify as, but like I kind of want.
Look, I am identifying as that tactical face palm in the middle.
Okay, come on, this guy's rocking it,
dude. Okay, he's actually pretty cool though. Like he'd probably beat me up.
Yeah. Look, a Braveheart would have ended very differently.
Oh God. Okay. Wait, read that description. As an April Fool's joke, 511 advertised tactical duty killed. Oh, okay. So they basically did make it off of a joke.
A joke, yeah. And so people wanted it, they made a joke, but yeah.
It's like, be careful what you joke around about.
Yeah, I guess, but like, you know, I don't like. I think it's only weird if you. I think it's
It's
only there
only
for.
weird if you make it weird.
Well, that or it's like I guess it's like if you have. It's only weird looking if you have bare legs, right? Because it's like, oh shit. See,
I
Scottish
think we're going.
camouflage kilt. Okay, see,
I think we're
Scottish.
getting
Okay.
into some weird territory on Google.
Okay. That's funny. Wait,
No,
this is
see.
hmm?
Go ahead.
No. Uh, uh, I, yeah. So is this LARPing or is this cosplay?
I don't know, dude. I don't know anymore. Oh man,
There
there
we
we go.
go.
That's a good one.
This is
Yeah.
the penicillin. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think it's the. I think it comes down to the mindset.
Dude, it's a good thing that most people that watch our channel have never seen the Nevada video.
Oh. I don't think it's ever released, but
That's
maybe
what
it
I
is. I
mean.
can't remember.
It's,
Okay.
it's unreleased
Yeah,
secret
that's right.
DWAI footage that's
Yeah,
never
that's-
gonna get out.
That'll
So
be a. You
no
know
way.
what? We'll keep that as like 100,000 subscriber like release. You know
Oh
what?
no!
We're
No,
never
don't
gonna
promise
get
that.
there. We're never
Don't
gonna get there,
promise
so it
that.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, I think it comes down. I would agree. I think it comes down to the mindset and then like kind of how dedicated you want it to be.
You know,
I just think
what I
LARPing
think
just
would
gets
be-
such a bad like connotation. Like, and people like even like the mainstream is using it like ironically now, so you know it's like a bad term. We just need something better.
No, you know what we need to do is we need to remake the Nevada video,
No,
but like now.
yeah. Well, people have no context what it is, but yeah.
Oh, I know, but that's why it's funny for us because it's like it's I don't know. Yeah, I think it would be kind of interesting, just
It
as
would,
a personal
but-
project, as a
All
personal
right,
project.
all right. Yeah. No, we remake it, and then we have them guess what the original one is like.
No. We'll do a split screen release
Oh,
where
okay.
you'll see the original one and you'll see the new one. Oh yeah, that's I think that's like Nick Chen's thing.
Oh.
But basically, you can reload Lego heads into I think 40 caliber.
Oh, okay, that's
It's
funny.
like the right size for 40 cal.
All right, well,
Imagine getting shot by a Lego head.
yeah. Imagine just like, yeah, I don't know, like,
I'm actually curious if the Lego head would even survive the
I think it
like
would.
yeah, as
think
like
it
one
would.
piece, like
Yeah, I think
exiting
it
the
would.
barrel.
Well, because if you think like wax bullets, fucking exit the barrel.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
So
yeah.
why wouldn't plastic? Which is like, and it's hot, but it's like it's instant. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not like
So then
Yeah.
it's a hot Lego head just piercing your body.
yeah, exactly. I mean that's kind of like what being shot with wax bullets that have like. I guess it's like depend how much power it is, right? Because wax bullets aren't usually full power, so it just depends on like how much power you put behind it. But you also have to think like wadding doesn't explode. Wadding survives out of a shotgun, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
true. Yeah, that's true.
I think it just depends.
Mhm.
But anyways, any last closing remarks for LARP versus cosplay?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, like, honestly, I'm curious, like, all right, if you actually listened through this whole podcast, like, do you LARP or cosplay in your personal life or public life, I guess? But, like, how does it apply to you? Because I'm kind of curious since, like, I'm not, like, a cosplayer per se, because that's, like, way too much effort, time, and money that I don't have. But, like, I would say that on the spectrum, I'm a LARPer. All right. So basically, it's like I want to do cool stuff that I don't, or I'm not commissioned to, or I'm not in the profession of. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that I have that would, like, constitute LARPing in the sense that, like, I'm probably never going to need this kind of gear, but I like to have it. So it's like I am self-proclaimed LARPer, right? So if you are as well, then like to what degree do you take your LARP training, right? Like, are you the guy that wears a plate carrier and a helmet and nods to shoot in an open lane bay during the day, or do you actually get to like put your stuff to use, right? So it's like a lot of times we'll simulate doing things that would actually put your stuff to the test. Like, for example, doing like nods hikes and like going out and doing like night shoots and stuff with your buddies and like trying to like do things, you know, under nods, or like doing like hikes and stuff with like full kit on and like rucks and like, you know, stuff that you might need like in terms of like you know, just I don't know, survival bullshit. So it's like, do you actually like try to like make use of your gear, or do you just have it just because you like it, or and you're like just cosplaying, you know? I think that's like fine too. You know, like how do you actually like identify yourself, I suppose? I'm kind of curious just to see who's willing to like tell us in the comments. I can imagine maybe a lot of people just won't say anything, but also you can also have anonymous accounts that, you know, so it's like, I'm curious, what do you use your stuff for?
I just thought of one last thing. Is there a word for someone who's like, because like LARPing and cosplay, I think it's too restrictive, right? And you know, like, you know, it's like it's too binary, right? So we need something. What do you call somebody that's like that? This is just practical. Then, like, is that still LARPing? You know, like
cool guy.
Okay, so that's like true cool guy status. Then.
Yeah.
So okay. I mean,
look at the guy that you selected at the top. Yeah, right there. What a cool guy on Reddit, obviously. Whoa, so cool.
All I'm saying is like it's kind of like, you know, because we have a shit on everybody.
Look,
so
if your face is blurred, you're definitely a cool guy.
Definitely. This is the coolest.
Oh, that guy's the coolest guy right there. Oh yeah, so cool. But, if you have a skull face on your kit, you're definitely a cool
or
guy.
Jolly Rogers on their helmet.
Oh yeah, yep. Blackbeard.
Yeah, but I guess really just like, yeah, because it's like you can enjoy guns and gear without falling into either camp. I think it's hard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But like, you know, because you can enjoy guns without gear either. Like you just be a gun owner, right? I think it's when you start, you know, doing this stuff, or as in like, you know, trying to actually train, because it's one thing to just like, hey, I like shooting and I like marksmanship, because like then that's fine, like just do that, right? That's like archery, or like, you know, other like just like target shooting, right? That is in itself the sport. But outside of it, you know, what people, you know, we do, and then like most people when they think about LARPing is the whole like tactics, you know, the training part of it. And I think,
you know, sorry, go ahead. Finish yours.
No,
Finish yours
like I was just saying, like you can enjoy guns and gear without, you know, being a LARPer or a cosplayer, as long as you just, well, you know, just be a cool guy.
Well, like you know how the Japanese are like basically really into like airsoft stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in airsoft, it's like it's always the pursuit of making the gun more similar to real guns, because they like it's much harder for them to have real guns. So like they'll have like like recoil systems, or like gas blowback guns that like have like kick, right? And then like recently we were joking around about how they have this thing that you put it on the end of your gun, and when you shoot, it like produces like a spark or like a flame kind of to make it look like, you know, the report of the gun. And so that's like an example of like more cosplay, because it doesn't provide any real performance function. Whereas like on the opposite end of the spectrum, I would say like a lot of people who are interested in shooting guns, if you're interested in like the LARP aspect, you would actually want the opposite of that. Like you'd want to mask your signature, not like make it more obvious. So you'd want to put like suppressors on your guns to like reduce the signature of the gun. So then like I was thinking about like how you know how like before all the brace stuff went away, then basically it's like I'm saying like the brace stuff is going like all gone, but it's like obviously people still have braces. But it's like, you'll put a brace on like a short gun because you want to basically have a short gun without registering as a short barrel rifle. And then in Japan, there's airsofters who put braces on their airsoft short guns because they want to mimic like having a real gun so bad that it's like really cool for them to put braces on their
airsoft pistol
guns.
brace.
Yeah, so it's like I think that's like just so, you know what I mean? Like it's so like dumb, but it's so like funny at the same time that like their thought process is that like they want to replicate our stuff so badly that they will even go for like the cucked version of whatever it is that's real. I don't know, I just think that's like kind of funny in terms of like talking about like cosplay and like, LARPing and stuff.
Well, that's just who you're LARPing and who you're cosplaying, right? So,
yeah.
I think that comes down to like they want to cosplay as Americans, whereas like Americans want to cosplay as like police or military.
Have you seen the Japanese guys that cosplay as American cops?
No.
Oh, dude! So it's a huge community of Japanese people who are into cosplaying.
That's not the
American police. No.
Like this?
I don't know if you're able to find it like that, but you might have to go to Twitter for it. But basically, there's like cops. There's like Japanese people who will like even buy like police interceptors and like import them in and then put on like all the decals, put the light bars, put like the push guard things on the front. I mean, like, and like mount laptops inside, and it's like it looks like legit. But then you'll see like this NYPD cruiser like in the middle of Tokyo, And so then like all these like dudes, I mean, they do like the big like motorcycles too, and like they have like the uniforms and everything, and it's so funny because it's like, obviously you wouldn't really like, you don't typically see that in America, right? But then like over there, they're like all about it. And like you see like some of them will dress up as like detectives or like chief of police, like like they mimic like every aspect as much as they can of basically American cops. And like sometimes when they meet up, it'll be like a lot of different random departments, like LAPD, like NYPD, and like all the big name ones, like the famous police departments. And like they'll like meet up in like a parking lot, and they'll like be like looking at each other's like rigs and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just like such an interesting, like I guess like it's a cosplay, right? Yeah. But it's like, I don't know, something you're never gonna see over here, really.
Yeah. Well, Japan is a weird country. I won't go too deep into it, but I always say Japan loves Americana, but I don't like Americans. But anyways, I'll try to find this because Google is not helping with Japanese cosplay American cops does not bring up very safe results.
I might have some stuff saved in my phone that a friend sent to me from Twitter, but basically it's like, it's so interesting.
I don't doubt it though. They take cosplay seriously.
Dude, I know, but the best part is they're still like Japanese. Like they're not like, obviously they don't look like white dudes with like mustaches, right? Yeah. So it's like their costumes are like super legit, but they're like skinny and small and like Asian dudes, you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, it's just so interesting to see. So
it's just like Bellevue cops then.
Yeah, I mean, they're like really legit looking though. Like I mean, and it would be like, like some of their cosplay is like older stuff, kind of like if you were to like cosplay as like 80s like Navy SEALs, right? Like some of their cosplay is like based on like 80s like NYPD, you know what I mean? Like no,
they take their shit seriously. Yeah. But that's the thing though. It's like, like how many of them are like legit like pieces of kit, right? Like a lot of them, like a lot of them are just. I mean, like I'm not talking down on like homemade or DIY shit or custom shit, but it's like it comes back to our same, LARPing versus cosplay. It's like using fake shit, like, a fake bolt cutter versus a real bolt cutter. But, yeah, either
Right.
way, I mean,
I mean, some of those people were just driving themselves into crazy debt trying to get the real thing, you know?
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Isn't
Well,
that like a thing with like Japanese people where it's like you're like you're like a debt slave for like life basically?
yeah, I mean, I think
Like,
that's just, I mean, that's starting to become the world, all,
oh, yeah, I
everywhere
know, but
now.
I mean
But
it's
like,
like
but
especially
in like,
like in Japanese culture that you
I
just
mean,
like, you know.
In Asia, it's like people just like basically give up because they realize
Yeah.
they're just gonna be in debt their whole life. Like, and so what's
Yeah.
the point? Anyways, that's a fun discussion. So yeah, we'll leave it at that.